Doha, France's Gael Monfils won the Qatar Open final in straight sets on Saturday, Jan 6, brushing aside Russia's Andrey Rublev in a one-sided final, 6-2, 6-3. It was the Frenchman's first Qatar title despite having played in 3 previous finals, stretching back more than a decade, and he is the first wildcard to win in Doha since compatriot Nicolas Escude triumphed back in 2004. "I'm very happy, I like this tournament so much, you know," he told reporters afterwards. "I always come back. And I was very close and finally get it. So I'm just very happy and very proud." Saturday's victory was his 7th victory overall on the ATP Tour. The 31-year-old, who arrived in Qatar after a 4-month break due to a knee injury, dominated throughout. He broke Rublev's serve in the 4th game of each set and barely looked troubled by the Russian, who has been so impressive all week but could not cope with the power of Monfils. The world number 46 took the first set in just 23 minutes, and in the second was able to save 2 break points in the 5th game after establishing a 3-1 lead, the only time the Frenchman's serve was put under pressure. Monfils needed only 1 championship point to secure the match after exactly an hour on court. He said he had been unlucky with injuries and was looking to recapture the form that propelled him to a ranking of world number 6 back in 2016. "It was in 2016 I was almost on top and I had a very good year, finished 6th, and couldn't really defend my chances in 2017, added Monfils. "I had a long rest and, to come back strong in 2018 was a goal." Rublev looked crestfallen afterwards but has the consolation that he will be seeded as the forthcoming Australian Open and has enhanced his growing reputation with his performances this week. He went into Saturday's final as the world-ranked number 39 but that will rise to at least 33 after Doha and will be seeded at the Australian Open in only his 2nd appearance in Melbourne because of injuries to other players. Monfils had previously lost in Doha in 2006, 2012 and 2014. A destroyed Rublev said afterwards that he felt too tired to compete at the same level on Saturday as the rest of the week. "He was much fresher, moving much better than me, missing less," said the young Russian. "I think I was completely tired today, you could see in my shots." Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday rejected an author's accusations that he is mentally unfit for office and said his track record showed he is a very stable genius. Michael Wolff, who was granted unusually wide access to the White House during much of Trump's first year, has said in promoting his book that Trump is unfit for the presidency. Trump, in a series of extraordinary morning posts on Twitter, said his Democratic critics and the U.S. news media were bringing up the old Ronald Reagan playbook and screaming mental stability and intelligence since they have not been able to bring him down in other ways. Reagan, a Republican who was the U.S. president from 1981 to 1989, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1994 and died in 2004. "Actually, throughout my life, my 2 greatest assets have been mental stability and being, like, really smart," said Trump, a former reality TV star and developer. "I went from very successful businessman, to top TV star, to President of the United States, on my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius, and a very stable genius at that." Trump, 71, issued the tweets from the presidential retreat at Camp David, Maryland, where he was meeting Republican congressional leaders and many cabinet secretaries about their legislative agenda for the year. Wolff's book, Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, portrays Trump as unfocused, unprepared and petty while presiding over a chaotic White House. Trump, answering questions from reporters at Camp David later, called Wolff a fraud and said the book is a complete work of fiction. "I think it's a disgrace," he said. Trump said he never granted Wolff an interview for the book and blamed former advisor Steve Bannon, who he called Sloppy Steve, for granting Wolff access at the White House. The tweets were another sign of Trump's frustration at what he views as unfair treatment by the news media of his presidency amid a federal investigation into whether he or his campaign aides colluded with Russia during the 2016 presidential campaign, in which he defeated Democrat Hillary Clinton. Trump, asked about a New York Times report that his aides had pressured Attorney General Jeff Sessions not to rescue himself from the Russia investigation, said, "Everything I've done has been 100% proper." Wolf's book has proved to be another shock to the system for Trump and his top aides, coming just as he starts his second year in office. Wolf told BBC Radio in an interview broadcast on Saturday that based on his interviews with the people around Trump that he believed the president was unfit for office. He told NBC News on Friday that White House staff treated Trump like a child. "The one description that everyone gave, everyone has in common, they all say he is like a child," Wolf said. "And what they mean by that, he has a need for immediate gratification. It's all about him. This man does not read, does not listen. He's like a pinball, just shooting off the sides." Fox News correspondent Geraldo Rivera told Fox and Friends on Saturday that he had spoken to Trump on Friday and that he was very frustrated that the issue of his mental fitness was getting traction. Trump is to undergo the first physical examination of his presidency on January 12. The exam was announced on December 7 after questions arose about Trump's health when he slurred part of a speech announcing that the United States recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. White House officials and Trump's high-profile supporters have launched an effort to raise doubts about Wolf's credibility. White House spokesman Sarah Sanders said earlier in the week that the book includes mistake after mistake after mistake. Additional reporting by James Oliphant in Camp David, Maryland, editing by Lisa Von On and Bill Trott. U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday, Jan 6, praised himself as a very stable genius, following the release of a bombshell book that calls into doubt his mental health. But Trump's response to the book's allegations had Washington focusing anew on the question of his stability. In a series of extraordinary early morning tweets, Trump said that throughout my life, my two greatest assets have been mental stability and being, like, really smart. I went from very successful businessman, to top TV star to President of the United States, on my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius, and a very stable genius at that. The new supposed tell-all book, Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, was rushed into stores Friday after the Trump administration failed to suppress it. The book quickly sold out in Washington and has been the talk of the town. Trump has decried the instant bestseller as phony and full of lies as the White House issued a scorched earth dismissal of Fire and Fury along with its author and his sources. Trump's stability has been questioned by critics almost since he declared his candidacy for the presidency. In March 2016, former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney said Trump lacked the temperament of a stable, thoughtful leader. And Trump's Democratic rival Hillary Clinton regularly declared him temperamentally unfit for a job requiring knowledge, stability and immense responsibility. Trump's tweets came ahead of his meetings Saturday with top Republican lawmakers and cabinet members at the Camp David presidential retreat to discuss party priorities ahead of the crucial 2018 midterm elections. Yet the sensational details in the new book and Trump's continued defense of his mental health have wrenched attention away from policy and news of U.S. financial markets hitting all-time highs, bringing even more scrutiny over whether the U.S. leader is fit for office. Like a child. On Friday, Washington's chief diplomat Rex Tillerson was obliged to defend Trump after being asked during an interview about claims that the president has a short attention span, regularly repeats himself and refuses to read briefing notes. "I've never questioned his mental fitness. I've had no reason to question his mental fitness," said Tillerson, whose office was last year forced to deny reports that he had referred to Trump as a moron after a national security meeting. Even in defending Trump, the former ExxonMobil chief executive told CNN he has had to learn how to effectively relay information to the president. Journalist Wolf, no stranger to controversy, quotes several key Trump aides expressing doubt about Trump's ability to lead the world's largest economy and military hegemon. "Let me put a marker in the sand here. 100% of the people around him questioned Trump's fitness for office," Wolf told NBC's Today Show. "They all say he is like a child. And what they mean by that is he has a need for immediate gratification. It's all about him. Dope." The book includes extensive quotes from Steve Bannon, Trump's former chief strategist, who accuses Trump's eldest son Don Jr. of treasonous contacts with the Kremlin-connected lawyer, and saying the president's daughter Imka, who imagines herself running for president one day, is dumb as a brick. But it is Trump himself who is cast in the most unfavorable light. The book claims that for Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, the president was an idiot. For Chief Economic Advisor Gary Cohn, he was dumb as shit. And for National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, he was a dope. Wolf also says he detected signs that some believe could point to incipient dementia, or at least mental deterioration, in his repetition of the same stories and anecdotes, sometimes within minutes. The book's publication came as news emerged that at least a dozen members of the U.S. Congress were briefed last month by Yale University professor of psychiatry Bandy Lee on Trump's mental health. Assessments questioning Trump's stability have grown throughout his first year in office, fueled by what critics said were his often petulant, and even childish, reactions to criticism. Last November, Lee wrote to the New York Times that she and several other concerned mental health professionals were detecting more than his usual state of instability, with characteristics that place our country and the world at extreme risk of danger. The White House has regularly dismissed such criticism, saying it is no secret that the president has a strong personality, but that it makes him a more, not less, effective leader.